Hey there, clarity seekers. Pascale here. Are you a podcaster, content creator, entrepreneur, or just someone who loves sharing your voice with the world? Well, I've got something exciting to share with you. I know how important it is to have high quality audio and video for your podcasts, webinars, and even your social media content. That's why I use Riverside.fm, the best tool for recording and editing professional grade podcasts and videos right from the comfort of your own home or office. With Riverside.fm, you get crystal clear audio and video quality, easy editing tools, and the ability to pull amazing video clips for your social media. Plus, it's all in one place, which means no more juggling multiple apps or struggling with complicated setups. It's streamlined, simple, and perfect for the busy entrepreneur like us. And here's the best part. As a listener of Women Finding Clarity podcast, you can head over to riverside.fm using the link in show notes. Trust me, this is a game changer if you're looking to elevate your content and reach a wider audience. Visit Riverside using the link in show notes and start creating content that truly shines. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one recording, one conversation at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascale Cook Fernandez. Women in business is not new to my generation, but it wasn't very long ago historically that women even started venturing outside the home so they could take up space in the business world. For that matter, women were able to open a bank account in their own name back in 1862, but couldn't get a credit card in their own name until 1974. Let that sink in for just a second. I know that the 1900s feel like a very long time for younger generations, but trust me when I say that 1974 wasn't very long ago. Heck, if someone says 30 years ago to me, I think of the 1970s, even though the reality is that 30 years ago was 1994. And I was already out of high school. That's a big ouch. That just goes to show you how skewed our minds can be when it comes to time. All of that to say, I love being in a space where women come together to celebrate what makes each of us unique and to demonstrate how we use our own particular brand of personal power. One way to do that is in the entrepreneurial space. So I love bringing you women entrepreneurs from all walks of life to share their own stories and demonstrate the possibility mindset. My guest this evening is a wonderful example of using her life's needs and experiences to move forward on her path. Linda Schaeffer has been a franchise owner 3 times in her life, placing her in the shoes of a prospective franchise owner. Being a business owner while raising a family was the exact work life balance Linda was looking for. And having the ability to involve her children in her business was amazing. She never once regretted her decision to move forward. As a top producing franchisee, Linda has a unique perspective when assisting those looking into franchise ownership. She prides herself on building and maintaining strong personal relationships with those who are serious about investigating real opportunities and understands the importance of communication and support throughout the candidate's journey. Before entering the franchising world in the 1990s, Linda spent years as a certified public accountant, assisting small businesses in maximizing profits and achieving success. In 2014, Linda founded her company, Freedom Franchise Advisors, to help people achieve their work life goals as she did through franchise ownership. In addition to her consulting, Linda has worked in franchise development for 3 major franchisors: Abracadoodle, Crestcom, and MRI Network. Having been on all sides of the equation, Linda has real knowledge of what it takes to be successful as a franchise owner. Linda attended Babson College in Wellesley, Massachusetts, as well as Rider University in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Commerce with a major in accounting. Linda resides in Sarasota, Florida, with her husband of 38 years, Scott. They enjoy spending their summers in Stone Harbor, New Jersey, with their three children and their four grandchildren. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Linda Schaeffer. Linda, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you today.
Happy to have you here today. I love having authors come on just because it's such a big deal to write a book. I've been saying I'm going to write a book for as long as I can remember. It used to be a children's book, and now it's going to be very different. And I really feel like I've hardly even started putting pen to paper or, you know, digitally pen to paper.
Right.
So, first, I just want to say congratulations on publishing your
Thank you.
own book.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I will tell you, I never thought I would write a book. Never was something that entered my mind. I was approached in the fall and had this year was a big year. I turned 60 in January. So, right before my 60th birthday, I was approached, hey, you should really write a book. And I thought, I've never thought about that. And why do people do it? Some people do it to increase sales or bring in business. At this point in my life, I'm very happy with my little niche business that I run and my little boutique business. And I thought, no, I don't really need more clients, but I really would love to share almost as a capstone to my career for my daughter-in-law, my granddaughters, and sort of tell my story a little bit and share and leave them something. So for me, it was more about ending my career, not trying to bring in more business. So that's what kind of sparked even doing it. But I had never thought about it before.
So interesting. Let's talk a little bit about that, your career. And, you know, you help people. Remind me, do you work solely with women or do you work with anyone?
No, so I work with anyone, but in trying to decide what to focus on, I narrowed it down to this niche of women in some type of transition in their lives. Because if we do go back, I married my college sweetheart, had our son a year later, and was pregnant with our daughter. And I was working as a CPA full time tax season. And I said, I never want to do another tax season. Let's think about what else I could do. In 1990, there was no such thing for most people of remote work, which is really what inspired this. And my husband came home on the train going to Philly to Washington and said, "You're not going to believe this was laying on my seat." And it was a magazine and it was the top 10 franchises for women. And I went through it and went down to Virginia to meet with the women who had created a brand called Computer Tots, which was children's computer education at a time where everyone was terrified of computers. Parents didn't know how to use them, let alone children. But then they were so afraid if their child was left behind. So it was a fabulous business. One of the women behind Computer Tots, and then my second franchise, Abracadoodle, is the woman that wrote the foreword for the book for me. So she's known me since I was 26 and pregnant, and they moved the training to Philly because they were afraid I was going to give birth, in the middle of our training class. And then, even funnier, 3 days later, we had our first interview with a daycare center to bring the brand, to market our Computer Tots franchise. And I went 3 days after giving birth and remembered sitting off the edge of my chair, but it had a happy ending. We signed 6 schools that day. But so that's kind of where I said I want to talk to other women that are feeling the pressures of whatever it is in their life that's making them want to make a change, tell them my story, and just show them this is just franchising is just one avenue for women. And the book was really designed that the whole first part could talk to anyone. And they might say, I don't want to buy a business, but this was very interesting. And then it's a pretty book to sit on your shelf or on your coffee table and remind them every day, you know, about the choices that we as women have. But that's what started the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So the ingenuity of the mother, right? To say, okay, I know I need to, or I know I want to work, and it's important for me to be at home too. So, how can I make both things be true at the same time?
Right. And there was no balance. If you worked full time back in the 90s, you worked full time in an office with a commute, and it was grueling. And it enabled me to have that balance during the day when my kids were at school. Actually, I think with in the beginning, we worked out of my home. And then we ended up with an office. But again, it was when we wanted to go, we controlled how much. All through that, I controlled how much I wanted to work and how much I wanted to delegate. It's very funny. One of my little stories, my son Kevin, who's 37 now, but he was 3. My husband was doing very well in his career and moving up the corporate ladder. And, I was building this business part time. I didn't take a lot of money from it because that wasn't what it was about for me. It was about the balance. And he said, well, mommy's much more important than you because she's the boss of her business. And, we're kind of chuckling together, but it was such a wonderful way to even teach my children. And my daughter worked in my franchises in high school. She taught abracadoodle classes to kids. She was like a teacher's aide, and now she's a special education um, teacher. So it's funny how it was a beautiful thing for me. It just was a beautiful balance I wanted to do with who I wanted to do it. Worked out well.
Amazing. Yeah, that's fantastic. And what a great stepping stone for your daughter.
It is. And at times I think if I ever really wanted to stop, she's probably the only person I could bring into my business with me that could relate to women making these choices and helping them explore. And she grew up in the world of franchising as one way to go, not the only way to go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. When I think about a franchise, I used to work for a company, Edible Arrangements. I don't know.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was like just a little part-time gig, and I used to go in and cut fruit and make arrangements and whatever. And when I think about franchise, that's what I think about, right? Or I think about McDonald's, or I think about Dunkin'. Okay, I guess my question is a little bit twofold. First of all, how do you start in franchising?
So I'm going to back you up and then hit your question. You hit on something there. So edible arrangements is very special to me. So the reason I named my book what I named my book was in dedication to my niece Katie. So Katie was 17 and was had a full scholarship for lacrosse to Fairfield University, and she got a brain tumor, and it was horrible. And she was 6 feet tall, beautiful, just a sweetheart. And she used to get very upset because she knew what was kind of dished out to her. She had to watch all her friends go off to college. She couldn't go. I would take her to chemo every 2 weeks. But watching her handle it with grace and strength the way she did, her saying was, love the life you live. And my sister and I spoke before I named my book, and I said, really want to use Katie's quote because it really upset her when she would watch people just giving away these opportunities they had and being not taking care of their health or being afraid to try things. And I said to my sister, love the life you live sounds sadly like you better love what you were given because you're stuck with it. Right. And I said, would you be upset if I changed it to live the life you love? Because, and I actually have a mug sitting here next to me, live the life you love, because that's more optimistic, right? Like you get to choose. And Katie, she said, oh, Katie would have said, do it, Aunt Linda. Like people need to love their life because you only get one life. So that's why I named it that. And we used to get her edible arrangements because she loved the chocolate covered strawberries. So
Oh,
that was her thing that we would send her because she loved it. So that's where I said that. Now, backing up, you asked how you get into franchising. So, again, the beginning of my book just talks about women and all these choices we're faced with and knowing who you are, knowing who you're not, your podcast, the word clarity, is so relevant to all of my women because I can't help them find the right franchise if they aren't transparent with me, trusting of me, sharing with me, letting me see who they are, who they're not, what they're capable of. Is this for them? Is it not? So the whole later part of the book talks in detail about my process. And a franchise is really just one way that a business chooses to grow across the world or country. You can open corporate stores like Starbucks or Dunkin', McDonald's. They've chosen to grow through franchising. To become a franchisee, there's an investment, right? You're paying a franchise fee to become part of that system, to be able to use those processes, the name, the trademarks, and then there's ongoing royalties and things. So it's easy to become a franchisee, not so easy to pick the right brand that will help you get what you're trying to do. And that's where I come in, that I've done it 3 times. 2 out of the 3 were a success. My third one was a adult fitness brand, and I spent my entire marketing revenue, my marketing fund in, ready for this, February of 2020.
Oh,
And then in New Jersey, we shut down, and I blew, and then when we reopened, it was so challenging, and I just decided this. And the funny thing is, you say my why. My why that time wasn't for work life balance. It was for my third child, Matt, thinking he was a swimmer, thinking he might like to run this business. He never said he wanted to run this business. That was all me. So I opened it and then immediately was like, what did I do this for? I was like, I don't want to do this during this crazy time in this world. And I actually pretty much sold it, gave it to a young couple that owned another one in North Jersey, and they're very happily running it today. But knowing your why, all these things help me see I need to know what someone's trying to do to find the right brand. But becoming one is very easy, and it's not easy to sign the papers, but it's a very doable thing. It's just finding the right brand is what's hard. What are you looking to do?
and I don't feel like I ever would have given this topic any thought, which is why I thought that you would be a great guest to come on, because franchising is nothing we've ever talked about before. Your niche is so different. It's so very micro niche specific, and
Hmm.
that's fantastic. So, what do you think is the benefit of franchise versus starting your own company? I mean, you
Hmm.
very briefly kind of mentioned something before, like using their processes that they've
Hmm.
already developed. What else can you share about that?
Sure. And there are certainly statistics out there that show that the percent of businesses that succeed that are franchises versus, mom and pops, it's probably double if you go at it yourself. And because you're going to spend so much money doing your R&D and like getting your software programs you need, your CRMs, everything, your marketing, all of it. You're going to do all that and pray to God that it works where they've proven it works. So the question becomes, have they proven that it can work for what you want to do? So that's why it's so important. The other thing I love about it is I still am friendly with other women that were franchisees in those systems across the country. I loved that I could pick up my phone and call Diane in Chicago, and she's a real person that owned Computer Tots when I did, and say, hey, are you dealing with kinder care? How's that working out? Have you tried this? And you're in business for yourself, but never by yourself. And when COVID struck, even Exercise Coach was the brand. Absolutely loved the brand and I love the product. Didn't love running it, but I loved, and they didn't love me running it. So it was all good. But, you being part of a franchise system, the whole system came together and said, how are we going to pivot? Abracadoodle, Rosemary told me that they became virtual. You could log on with your child, they would ship you the kit, and your child could do that class for the day virtually with their teacher. So it gives you a support system you're just never going to have on your own. And then to be also able to see these people I just spoke with, they broke even in 6 months, and they were making what they wanted to make in no time at all. So being able to do that, and validate that this brand has done this for others, and if I can be at least as good as they were, I can achieve this. It takes away a lot of the fear factor. um, and it is interesting that women, for some reason, we always feel like we can't take risks, that we shouldn't take risks, and that, oh, I should just do this. Or yet, if you think about it, it's kind of the perfect time in our lives to take a risk, you know? Now, I work with a lot of women that either have been laid off over and over and they're sick of it and they are done with corporate. Then it gets a little scary. I've had somebody who said to me, I've got a nice severance, but I need to be profiting something by January when my money runs out. So then I get to where I really know what they're feeling, and I can think like them, and I say, okay, I need to show them a home service brand or a home-based concept without a huge investment up front that can be boots on the ground running, because it's just he actually bought a soccer training educational concept, kind of like what I did with Abracadoodle and art enrichment. His was soccer. So you don't pay that first coach until you've signed on a community center. So he was very quick to ramp up. If I know I have someone who says, I'm afraid to leave my corporate job, so I want to find a business where I can manage my managers, then we may look at something that's more like a storefront. Even Edible Arrangements is a great example, that I'm going to open store number one, I'm going to put a manager in place, I'm going to check in with them every night, week, whatever, and then open number two and number three. So it's very important to know what somebody's looking to do. But again, the support system behind you, the proven record of success, and the community of support is very valuable.
Yeah, it is true. We are better together. So building
Mhm.
community is really, it's just the way to be successful in life, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so true. So
so
true.
true. So okay, great. Franchise sounds wonderful. I love community. I love systems in place. I don't have to try to figure it all out on my own. What else can I expect if I come to work with you? Help me find the right franchise for me. What does
Yep.
that experience of working with you look like?
Well, obviously, it's fabulous.
Obviously,
Obviously.
I told you when we
Um,
got on the call, you're adorable.
I think that what's really nice is, and one of my references put in the book, I'm a friend for life. I really want to get to know people so that I can help them find the right brands for them. They never have to pay me, which is a wonderful thing. It works very much like a realtor. So it's like I pre qualify people so that I know financially what their parameters are and things like that. And then if I find a brand, a wonderful new franchisee, they pay me just like a realtor would be paid if they sold a house. The beautiful thing for my clients is they aren't going to pay a higher price for a franchise than if they went without me. It's not allowed. They would have to disclose it next time. So the wonderful thing is it works like a realtor, as I've said before. So it works like a realtor where you work with me, I pre-qualify you. I want to make sure that you can that these brands, you're going to fit within their parameters. Most brands have a net worth and a liquidity requirement. So I always want to make sure I'm not showing someone something they're going to get super excited about and then not be able to do it or not qualify for. So we work together. I gather my toolbox, as I call it in the book. There's a very cool profile I use sometimes called the Zoracle profile. It was developed by scientist Rebecca Monet strictly for the franchise world. And it just helps me see what kind of franchise culture my client might. I get a confidential questionnaire from all of my clients, and it's just that confidential. The only people that I would ever share that with is a brand that I was referring them to talk to, um, their resume. And then we spend a good amount of time going through, like a 5 year plan. How do you see yourself? We talk about the industries. We talk about the time commitment somebody wants to put into a business. everything I can think of so that I can think like them. And that's where that clarity comes into. I have to have a great idea of who you are. I don't show my clients the same four franchises. In fact, at most times, I'm not showing any of the same franchises because it is you and you're not the other person. So my process is that we go through steps after we've had our consultation call and I've got my whole toolbox. I go back and I start researching brands. I start looking to see if they're available in your territory, if it fits in your financial parameters, if it could help you based on what I know, could it help you meet your goals and such? And then I come back and it's kind of fun for my clients. I present four or five brands. And I love to throw in something they would never have thought of. We had a brand years ago called Smash My Trash. And two guys worked with me. They ended up buying 11 locations. And again, this was a home based business. It was just 11 territories around New York City. And this was a trash compactor for dumpsters. It's still out there. So it would, if you think of Anheuser-Busch being your client, your machine, which was proprietary machinery, would go in and crush down the stuff in the dumpster, the oil bins, and would save them money. And it was like a money share business to, you, the franchisee, and then your client saved money. So those gentlemen owned it for about 5 years and they just sold it last year. Great exit, very happy. Have always, but he's in my book. John Lombardo gave me a wonderful review working with them, but not a sexy concept. It's very different from a dog walking or a tutoring but it was perfect for what they wanted. They came to me wanting to grow big, and I had to think of something that they could turn into an enterprise.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound sexy, right? Until you think about how much money they made doing it. And that's pretty
Yep.
sexy.
Exactly. And on the opposite end, I could have somebody like I was that, let's say somebody buys a Tutor Doctor, great brand, and I've placed several people with them. What I love about Tutor Doctor is if you want to own one territory, and I've often thought of it for my daughter, you're an educator, you're home with your kids, you have no materials, which is a could be a great thing depending on my client, right? And it's a people, you're basically a placement service and you're going out into your community talking to families that have a problem and you're helping them by finding them a tutor for Billy who's struggling. So it's a very rewarding business. The Zoracle will tell me if somebody is what we call a societal. And it's usually people my age that at this point in life, they want to do something that gives back. Maybe they worked as a hedge fund or private equity or some high stress job in New York City. Now they want something very community based, but it could be somebody that's very happy. When I was doing computer tots and abracadoodle, now again, take you back a long time, but if I made $40,000 staying home with my children, other than babysitter costs, and building a business, which I sold, I was really happy with that. So I have to know what people are doing so that I know to show it to you or not. If somebody comes to me and says, I need to replace a $400,000 salary, that's going to be a different brand I show you than if somebody says, I'm doing this because I want to keep my foot in the game. I want to I want to set a good example for my children. I want to work and give back. I might show them more like a soccer stars than I would not LA Fitness, but I mean something big like that. So it really is all about getting to know my client and what they're trying to accomplish. There is something out there for everyone, but it takes time. You got to figure it out what that is.
Right. And in listening to you, I'm definitely seeing your value, the value of what you offer, because I wouldn't know where to start looking. Right. All I know is I can't afford a Dunkin'. I can't afford you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
then you think the door is closed. But it's in working with you who has so many other options available. You're so knowledgeable about what's out there and the placement. it really, you really are the expert. You're like the go-to. If this is something someone is considering at all, this is exactly where you need to begin.
And I think I've always said there are a lot of franchise consultants out there. It's one of those areas that people have to be very careful who they choose to work with, because you can find there are people that will just push you to same four brands all the time and push you to buy three of this or four of this. I always say to my clients, I'm very fortunate, and especially now at 60, which I love saying that, I'm actually kind of loving this whole 60 thing. I don't do this. This is not how I survive in the world today. I'm very blessed that way. I really couldn't care less if somebody buys one little tutor doctor or 10 smash my trash. I want my people to write me great recommendations and refer me to other people. And it, so it's very personal to me. It's very, very personal to me. I said to my husband the other day, we were walking on the beach. I'm in Stone Harbor, New Jersey in the summer, which is a beautiful little town. And I said, my goal is I want anyone who wants to read my book to be able to read my book. I did a promotion this week where I told you it's 99 cents on Amazon. I want it to be something they hold in their hand and they have while they're drinking coffee and reading it. I want anyone who wants to read it to be able to read it. And it's I don't if it doesn't bring me any business, that's okay. I hope I hear from people that read it and just thought it was valuable, even if it's not what they want to do. So I treat it very personally when I work with my clients too. I want them to never feel pushed or pressured. When I pass them off back to the process, when I present their brands and then they say, I hate number one, and I love when people say, I don't eat that, hate that one, but I like these two. Then start, like, my process continues, but now they're also in that brand's process. But I'm there to guide them and explain why this brand may send you the franchise disclosure document sooner than the other brand did. You know, each time they have a call, I want to know what they talked about, how they felt, what did they think of what they were told? Does this feel good to you? What kind of questions, is there anything I can help get that you're having trouble getting out of them? I'm with them every step of the way. And I always say to them, at any point, you are in control to cross one off the list, say, this isn't for me. So it's, it takes time. I would tell you it's usually about 90 days, start to finish. If by 90 days you're not ready to say yes or no, we might close your file, but I'm here and come back when you're ready. It doesn't Anything dragged out longer than that is usually because of nerves, or there's certain things that come up, of course, but um, we get to know each other quite well. And I love that. I keep in touch with all my clients. I try to hear how they're doing. It has not worked for some people, but interestingly, a woman I worked with in North Carolina bought a painting franchise. The problem was they had too many clients. And she said, my husband doesn't want to manage, he wants to paint. And they actually couldn't keep up with the demand. They kind of weren't following the process. So it didn't work out for them, but I wouldn't even say that's a negative. They learned something from it. They sold the business, and it was nothing the brand did. I mean, there's very successful people in that franchise. It just wasn't right for them.
And I think that's a really key point is we're all very different people. And so what we can expect whilst, franchise feels cookie cutter, like you do this and then you do this and then you do this, you might realize, you know what? This isn't the life that I thought I wanted, or this isn't right. And so even before you sign on the dotted line and you buy the franchise, just having the conversation, just building the relationship with you is worth a while, because how do you know you don't know?
Yep. And I always say to people, if you don't end up doing anything, don't feel bad about that. That's what I do, but refer me to somebody down the road, say kind words back, and it's also my job is to also get braver about saying, I don't think this is for you. And I say that in the book. Know who you are and know who you are not. I don't think they truly wanted to award me my exercise coaches because I think there was a part of them that thought that I didn't really want to run a franchise, which was so true. And they were so right. And that's why we very gracefully ended it amicably because, if I wasn't in the role I'm in, I don't know that they would have sold that to me you
Yeah.
know? So you have to know why you're doing it, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Because if someone says to me, I am terrible at sales, then I can find something where all of the sales are where it comes to you. And like Facebook marketing has changed the world for franchises because where I literally knocked on doors and said, Hi, I'm Linda Schaeffer with Computer Tots. I'd like to show you my program for your children in the school. You don't have to do that anymore. Facebook does that stuff, and leads were dropped into my CRM every morning with exercise coach. I didn't have to do anything except pay for the marketing that brought those warm leads. And then when you were calling someone, you were saying, Hey, you reached out to me, want to come in for a demo. So if people tell me their fears, I can figure out how to work within that. I have a funny story. Guy that I worked with that and he did close and bought a roofing contract, gutters, the brothers who only do gutters. Great, great brand. I had a couple deals with them. So in the 11th hour, he called me and he said, Linda, my wife said, I really need to tell you something. And I said, What's going on? You're probably just getting nervous. I understand. I've been there. He said, No, no, no. I have to tell you something. I said, What? He said, I'm terrified of heights. He said, I can never, ever get on a roof, ever. And I said, Okay. Do you want to go back to the other brands? No, I love these guys. I want to do this. So I got off the phone with him. I called the brand. I said, Hey, here's the deal. And they said, You won't believe this. He never has to. We do all of our training at eye level. We have a whole training center where the gutters are set up at eye level. He said he never ever has to get on a ladder. When he goes out to people's homes, he'll tell them, My colleague will be back out to measure this week. And he still owns it today.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, yeah, funny story. Yeah.
It's a funny story, and it really just goes to show you, you know, be authentic, be transparent when when someone's working with you, because you just don't know if it
Yep.
matters, if it doesn't matter, what it could lead to, right?
Right, right,
So someone might not have even considered that company because they're afraid of heights.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. So many little tidbits. And I feel like your book will be so valuable just in life in general, whether someone wants to franchise or not. You have learned so many lessons along the way in life,
Hmm.
in business and franchise, that the more we can learn from each other, better life becomes. And so, even if you're unsure, like, I don't know if franchise would be for me, or if you're like, franchise definitely is not for me, I think the book still holds tremendous value because, first of all, if you've never tried franchise, you don't know if it's definitely not for
Hmm.
you. And second of all, what lessons are waiting for you on the inside when you buy the book?
Well, thank you for that. And it's funny because I was torn. I didn't want to just be another business franchise book. I wanted it, and I have a colleague who just did one that is strictly the second half of my book. I wanted it to be more about women and the choices and things like we've talked about. And I talked whether it should have been, I wouldn't call it a self-help book, but it is an eye opener, maybe, and maybe inspiring, I hope. And if nothing else, just, my granddaughters were excited their names were in the book, So
I love that so much.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's true. I mean, if we always look at things from the same perspective, that's all we're going to see. And so, even picking up your book and looking at it from the perspective of someone who's seeing it differently than I've always seen it, that's valuable to me.
Well, thank you. I've taken a lot of heat throughout my life for all the change in my life. And I talk about that in the beginning of the book. You too?
Oh, yeah.
I've moved, we've sold a lot of houses, bought and sold a lot of houses. I love doing houses to a fault. To me, They're just material things. And as long as I wasn't putting our life's earnings at risk, like, why do other people care how many times we've moved? I've tried a lot of jobs. For a little while after I was done accounting and in between franchises, I did designed closets for Closets by Design. That was short lived, but it was a creative outlet and it was really fun. And people thought I was crazy. You don't even need to work. Why do you work? Because it's life. I only get this one life to live. Like Katie would say, live the life you love and love the life you live. Like, why not try all these things? And I empathize that everyone isn't comfortable with change like that or trying new things or risking failure. But I'm a big believer, if you fail, what says what failure is? Like, it's, you've got to try something. That right there is success to me, that you went out of your comfort zone and you tried something and you're not embarrassed to say, yeah, it didn't work out. It can't all work out.
I don't even believe necessarily in the concept of failure because we learn so much from every win, but we learn so much more from every loss, every failure, right? And so it's not failure, it's I tried it and I learned that this isn't the avenue for me. I
Yep.
tried it and this is what I could have done differently.
And
So,
I'm very conservative with my clients' investments. I always, whatever they say they're comfortable with, I always go to the conservative side of it. Because, like I said, it doesn't matter to me which one they choose. So I want to find brands that are a lot less scary, a lot less risky. People have different levels of risk aversion. There's people that I can show, like my first two brands were very new. I was number 10 and number 6, I think. That's could be scary to somebody. But again, the balance of the investment and the risk was really, really good. But if I know somebody needs a name with a lot of recognition, like a CertaPro Painters or Tutor Doctor that's been around for 30 years and they know it's still out there, then I have to go look for that. There's almost any argument I can find an answer for in a franchise, but it's not the only way to go. I still keep in touch with, there's a woman, Layla, that worked with me, and she said, it's either I'm going to buy a franchise, and it was Tutor Doctor, or I'm going to start a executive coaching for women. And she's doing it. And we keep in touch and we refer to each other. And kudos to her. To me, that was more scary. But she did it and she's succeeding, and I follow her and it's exciting and we're friends because of it.
yeah.
Um,
And that's such a great example of I'm going to work with you. Oh, okay. Through this process, I realize this isn't actually what I want. And so
mhm,
now I'm even more clear on what I really do want. Because a lot of the time we have to know what we don't want before we can figure out what we do want.
100%. Yep. Agreed.
Linda, you are such a valuable, I'm going to say tool in this moment. You're such a valuable tool in helping women find clarity. And how can women get in touch with you?
So they can email me at linda@franchise-advisors.com, or you can go to my website, franchiseadvisors.com, and you can buy the book on Amazon. Or if you'd like a personally signed book, reach out to me via email and we'll talk about that and I'll get that right to you.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm always big for I want my book signed. So I'll
I'll send you one, Pascal. I'll just send you
You're the sweetest thing. I was gonna say you can expect an email from me. I
one.
have dropped your website and your email in show notes. And yeah, I mean, I know you said that you really wrote it to be physical in someone's hand, on their nightstand, all the things. But if someone really doesn't want a paper copy, you said that it is available in
Yep.
ebook on Amazon.
Yep. And I can do it for 99 cents. So anyone who wants to take advantage of that, that should be set up when this is released.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, then I'm going to put that link in show notes too.
Perfect.
Linda, this was a wonderful conversation, very enlightening. You've definitely given me a lot more to think about in terms
Wonderful.
of business and clarity and just life. So Thank you. And thank you for the value that you're contributing in the world.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I enjoyed every minute of getting to know you better, too. Thank you.
What inspired you the most from Linda's experience? What made you think about your own life just a little bit differently? You can get your own copy of Linda's book, Live the Life You Love Empowering Women Through Franchise Ownership, by clicking on the link in show notes. You never know what solutions life might have in store for you. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. Good night. Thank you for being in our Women Finding Clarity community. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite listening platform and share it with someone you know so they can find clarity from the conversation as well. Remember, the universe is abundant and success is your birthright. Let's align, elevate, and thrive together, one conversation at a time. See you next week.